Greetings. So, last week, I think it was, Gordon, Gib84, put up a video about his top 25 games that have been released in the last 25 years, as in, i.e. from 2000 up until 2025. I thought it was a good idea, so I thought I'd throw in my two penneth. I'll put a link in the description if you want to watch Gordon's video. Cracking video. Quite Sony pony heavy, as you'd expect with Gordon. But really good video. And it just kind of got me thinking as to what my kind of favourites were from the past 25 years. But I'm going to sort of start off by sort of setting a few facts, I suppose. In that, my list probably wouldn't be the same as anybody else's. I suppose that's true of everybody, but I'm talking about from the point of view that I'm much more of a retro style collector and gamer than I am a modern gamer, and I'd class modern as, generally speaking, 2000 onwards is quite modern, and prior to that is quite retro. There's obvious, you know, you could argue all day, but my point I'm trying to make is my experience with games since 2000 is quite a lot less than games prior to 2000 in many cases, and when things really went modern, as in like the HD era, that's when my sort of I switched off from gaming at that point. PS3, 360. I had both consoles, but I really didn't bother with either. And so anything from that generation that you may feel is worthy of being in the top 25 won't be in mine, purely because I probably haven't played it. There's probably 90% of the library on the PS3 and 360 I've probably never played. A large part because I don't want to play it, and you know, up to a point because I didn't bother at the time, and I haven't got back to experiencing it since I've sort of got back into, well, I say got back into, you know, I've started, or I have built up a collection for both consoles in more recent years, but I haven't played a great deal of any of it. So to a large extent, none of that kind of stuff will be included in my top 25. And up to a point, it's the same case with like a modern PS4, Xbox One. I've dabbled with those, but again, it's been in more recent years I've gone back to them, and as such they're probably not going to be as many as you might think of fairly recent games on my list. So with that being said, we'll crack on. I'm not going to dwell on anything. There's 25 games to get through, and there's a couple I'm going to sort of just mention at the start, which basically I've got down to about 28 games, or I've thought of about 28 games, because I've basically gone through all the consoles released since 2000, and I've sort of looked through the games that I have so I can make a valuable opinion on, and I've ended up picking out 28 games anyway, I think. So there's two which aren't in my top 25, the others are. And now I'm not going to try and rank them like Gordon did. He went from 25 to 1. Too difficult. And quite frankly, if you ask me again next week, it'd probably be different. But that said, the last three I am going to say are my top 3 games of the past 25 years, because I don't think whatever week you ask me that would change. So the first 4 is it? Are going to be just mixture. I'm not saying any are better than any others. They're just 25 awesome games. And then the last 3 will be my top 3 games of the last 25 years, if that makes sense. Right, enough waffle. We'll press on. The first honourable mention is going to be... So I'm grouping these together really. And it's like Gran Turismo, Forza, Project Cars. They're all kind of the same really. And so it's whichever one's your favourite. They're all magnificent in their own way. Personally, since I built my driving cab, I've got into Project Cars. I think it's fantastic. But like I say, they're all brilliant in their own way. It's whatever you've played. I've only really played the first Project Cars. I've been told that the sequels are better, but I've not got round to those yet. So I just wanted to include whatever takes your fancy of that sort of ilk of game, because that, you know, in terms of the technical performance of like driving simulator type games, I mean, it's at such a level now that they are incredible. I mean, you could argue it took some fun out of it, but I prefer the arcade racer. But that said, I do like a racing sim type game when I'm in the mood for it, and you can't argue with how well they are done on modern consoles. They are amazing. Right. In fact, I think that was the third honourable mention. I think there are 3 honourable mentions. The next one I'm going to talk about. Now, I think this would probably be in the 25 if I'm honest, but the reason I haven't put it in is purely because I haven't played it enough. But what I have played, it looks incredible. And I'm talking about Astrobot. Magnificent game. I'm sure, given more time playing it, I would have this in the 25. It's stunning. And as Galtooth said recently in one of his videos, it's... You know, you play something like this and it makes you think, what can they do with Mario to compete with this? It's a stunning game, as is the one you get free with the PS5, which again, I haven't played all through, but fantastic. And the PS4 VR one was also really good, but never, you know, brilliant game. And then I think the last honourable mention, again, this is a very modern game that I've only played recently, because I've only got a PS5 recently, if you weren't aware, if you're not a regular viewer. So I thought I loved this game. I really did. I'm not saying it's the most amazing game ever made, but I personally loved every minute I spent on it. And it's Illusion Island, which is kind of a... It's a simplistic Metroidvania, I think you would say. But it's a stunning game. It looks, sounds beautiful. It's such a charming game. And then once you've sort of beat it, it opens up this kind of bonus game, if you like, which is kind of a... It's kind of a single screen game, though you kind of go down levels, and it's like a mining game, and you've got a time limit as how far you can mine down before you get out the exit of the stage. Honestly, that in itself is a fantastic game. So, absolute stunner. I can't recommend that enough. Right, we're now on to my best 25 games released in the last 25 years. Since 2000, actually, in the first quarter of this century. So, first up, like I say, there's no order to any of these. And I felt I had to include a 3D fighter. You know, arcade. I love my arcade games, like a 3D fighter. And much like the driving games I talked about a while ago, I think you could slot anyone in here, frankly, whichever one's your favourite. You know, Soul Calibur, Tekken, whatever. I've put in Virtua Fighter 5. purely because I'm a Sega boy, always will be, and this is kind of the last physical release we had from Sega for Virtua Fighter, the Virtua Fighter series. So that's my pick. But like I say, you could put any 3D fighter in here, any Soul Calibur game. I think they're all amazing. They'll possibly prefer the Dreamcast one, which is before 2000, I think. So that's why I went with Virtua Fighter 5. Next up, we've got a fairly modern game, and again, this is an absolute stunner. And we've got Tetris Effect. You can't go wrong with Tetris, and you know, the Game Boy version, one of the greatest games ever made. But this in VR, honestly, this is definitely. I mean, I'm not a big VR guy. Most of it makes me motion sick. I can't play it. But this, I would say, this is definitely the best game I've ever played in VR. It's an absolute stunner. Tetris Effect, honestly. It's not too expensive to pick up a VR set now for the PS4. I only got mine in the past, I don't know, 18 months or so. Worth it just to play that. Right, next up, now we've got, now I'm going to show an Evercade game, but it's not particularly this game I'm talking about. It's just the fact that this game has got Donut Dodo on it, which is the only way I've got it at the moment. It's on my Santa list, hopefully to get the Switch version physical. I had this for months and months and months, never even tried it. And it wasn't until Stu mentioned it, Tootie, I finally got round to giving it a go. And honestly, I absolutely love it. It's hard to... I could quite easily say it's one of the best games ever made. That's how good I think it is at the moment. But it could be like because it's a new thing. I've only been playing it sort of, I don't know, a couple of months. But I'm sure it'll sort of wane a bit. So I couldn't sort of put it in my top 3, although I love it that much, it feels like I could. But at this moment, I don't think that would be fair to do it. But nevertheless, it's an amazing game, Donut Dodo. Play it in whatever way you can. It's really cheap to download as well. £1.79 I think I've downloaded on the Switch since playing it on that. But like I say, I'm hoping to get the physical version off Santa. Right, next up, we'll go... Yeah, there's no order. Next up, I'm going to say Beatles Rock Band. Now this is the 360 version, obviously. I've just picked this up for convenience because I've actually got the PS3 version and the Wii version, like the full big box, you know, with all the instruments. I haven't got it for the Xbox 360. It's just the fact this was easy to pick up. So I can't actually play it on the 360, but that doesn't matter. You've got a bit. I'm sure being a Beatles fan helps, but just Rock Band in general is a great game, isn't it? But I am a Beatles fan, and this is absolutely stunning. I absolutely love this. Me and my wife played through it back in the day when we got it on the PS3 at the time. One of the few games I played on the PS3. Stunning. Absolutely brilliant. I can't praise it enough. So I had to include that in my 25. Next up, we've got quite a modern game. Didn't play this at the time when it got released. I only got this again when I built my driving cab, and I bought it to use in there. And fantastic game, and it's Wreckfest. I've upgraded to this PS5 version. I've got the Xbox One in the cab, and I've got the PS4. Or I did have the PS4 version, and when I got the PS5, I upgraded to this. And I've not actually played this yet. I think Lee told me it was better on the PS5, so this could be even better than my opinion is of it already. But yeah, stunning game, Wreckfest. I was a bit apprehensive when I first sort of contemplated buying it. You know, it's a kind of Destruction Derby at the time when it got released on the PS1 was kind of revolutionary, and it was amazing in its own way, but it was kind of, once you go over all the crash damage, I didn't actually think it was a very good game myself. Didn't like it very much, and so that kind of made me think I'm not going to like this, but it's amazing. It's so well done with the crash damage, and it's just a brilliant arcade sort of racer with magnificent destruction physics and mechanics. Absolutely brilliant game. Then next up, had to include this. Now we're back on the PS3, and we've got a light gun game, and it's Time Crisis Rising Storm, which is Time Crisis 4. But I picked this version out in particular because in addition to the original Time Crisis 4 you can get, this one's got Dead Storm Pirates on it as well, which is a fantastic light gun shooter, as is Time Crisis. I mean, all Time Crisis games are magnificent. I've just picked this one out again, much like the Fighters and the Drivers. But coupled with Dead Storm Pirates, this is a phenomenal game. You know, get yourself this, get yourself a Move controller, and it's stunning, honestly. Right, now we've got a very modern game again here, and I did think twice about putting this in my 25, because much like Down at Dodo, I thought to myself, is it just because it's fresh in the mind? And that could be an element to that, but I honestly loved it so much. Much like Illusion Island, I felt this had to go in. I thought it was amazing, and it's Kirby and the Forgotten Land on the Switch too. Obviously, it's been out a while on the Switch 1. I never had that version, and I just bought this when it came out on the Switch 2. It's just brilliant. Again, much like Illusion Island, it's such a beautiful, charming game. It's not too taxing. Perfect, honestly. It's amazing. Absolutely top draw game in my opinion. Had to include it. Next up, where should we go? We'll go, I don't know if I'm saying I'm cheating here. I suppose I am, kind of, because I'm talking about the Sega 3D classics on the 3DS. These are the Japanese versions, obviously. Now there's 3 volumes, so that's kind of why I said I might be cheating. There's only 1 volume that got released in PAL territories, so if you count that, it's a game, isn't it? Anyway, there are 3 versions in Japan with obviously many more games than we got here. Now I think you could download them, I seem to remember at the time, because Outrun is on the first one in Japan, and I don't think that was on the physical we got, but I've definitely downloaded it on my original 3DS. So all of these may have been on the eShop. I don't know, but you've got like about 8 games on each one. Or obviously Sega arcade classics, just fantastic versions to play these Sega arcade games. And you've got the added gimmick of the 3D, which works really well on quite a lot of them, I think. I think the 3D on the 3DS is really, really good. So, absolutely had to include these, being the absolute Sega arcade boy I am. Just a fantastic release of games, and I, again, thoroughly recommend the one you can get in PAL territories. Fantastic bunch of games on it. Right, next up we've got another Switch game, and again I had to put this in there because it's amazing, and it's Mario Odyssey. Stunning game. I'm not massive into 3D games, if I'm honest, but this is just brilliant. Plays great, looks great. The perfect Mario game, really. For me, definitely the best ever 3D Mario game. So I had to include it. I'm sure you've played it. Then next up, we've got Well, it's the one I'm going to show is a PS4 game, but you can get it on other devices. I first played this on a mobile phone way back, years and years ago, whenever it came out. It started off as a mobile phone game. Anyway, Horizon Chase Turbo. Gordon mentioned this. It's a stunningly good game. I would say it's the... I think, for me personally, this is the best racing game released in the last 20 years. Oh, it's that good, honestly. If you liked Top Gear on the Super Nintendo, or you liked Lotus Turbo Challenge, the original one on the Amiga, this is a modern version of that. It's stunning, an amazing game. I desperately want the second one to get a physical. I've purposely not bought the digital one because I desperately want it physical. But a magnificent game. If you're into racers in any way, shape or form, you must play this. It's brilliant. Right, next up, again, much like the drivers and the 3D fighters, I felt I needed to include a shooter. Now, I've only got into shooters the past 2, 3, 4 years, whatever it's been. So, my experience of them is quite recent. And so, I was looking around at what I'd got on various systems that have come out since 2000. And one kind of stood above all the rest for me personally. Because it's part of my... I've got 2 favourite shooters. And this is part of the series of one of them. So I'm talking about Raiden Fighters Aces. Love Raiden, love the Raiden series, except 5, that's shite, and also that other one that come out, or is it Nova? Shite. This, however, is amazing, and you've got Raiden Fighters Aces and what is it now? Raiden Fighters Jet. I can't think now. Raiden Fighters 1, 2 and Jet, that's what's on here. All amazing games. Unfortunately it's locked to the Xbox 360 presently, though I'm pretty sure there's a collection coming out for the Switch shortly. I'm sure I've seen that somewhere. However, this is the original release. This made me buy a modified 360 just so as I could play this, and it was worth it just to play this game in my opinion. Amazing. If the Switch version does come out in PAL territories and you like shooters, it's a must buy in my opinion. So that was my shooter included. Then next up, we're going way back now to almost the early noughties, and again I felt I had to include this, and it's F-Zero GX on the GameCube, obviously, which according to the box is 2003. I couldn't remember when it came out until I started looking around. But honestly, to say this is 2 years old, it still looks absolutely unbelievable. It's so good. And I mean, it's so fast, the graphics are amazing. It's just incredible. You know, we've not had a game in this series since. It's that good. Maybe they think they can't beat it. It just shows Sega had a hand in making it, doesn't it? You know, Sega know what they're doing, or at least they did. I'm not sure they do now at all. The screen's gone dark. Right. Next up, we'll stick with the noughties a bit later, and my next pick is Ridge Racer 7 in this case on the PS3. I could have also included Ridge Racer 6 on the Xbox 360. It's a very similar game obviously, but the Xbox got that first and then this came out on the PS3. I love the Ridge Racer series. Unfortunately this is the last one we've ever had really. I'm not counting the Vita versions, so it's just such a shame it's now dormant. you can't go wrong with Ridge Racer. Phenomenal game. This is the only real one in HD, so I had to include it. That's Ridge Racer 7. And then next up we've got a Wii U game, and this is kind of unusual for me. It's not the kind of game I would generally play, but this is that good, and it's the Wind Waker HD. I know it's an older game, obviously it started out on the GameCube, but this HD version, it's stunning. I mean, it still looks, for me, incredible. I love cel shaded graphics. I don't know why things, or why games don't use it more. It's got that amazing, bright, colourful atmosphere that I love in games. I hate gritty, dark, realistic stuff. That's not for me. You know, there's enough of that outside. This is amazing. It's a great game into the bargain. I've got some great memories playing through this with my nephew. But on top of all the memories and how good it looks, it's a fantastic game as well. It's amazing it's never come out on the Switch. It must happen, surely. You'd think it'd be the easiest thing to port across. That ported all the other Wii U games. Why not this and Twilight Princess HD? I've no idea. But anyway, fantastic game. Next up, we've got another PS4 game, although you can get it on the Switch as well. Probably the Xbox, I don't know. And we're talking about Hot Shot Racing. Now again, this looks phenomenal. Just like Wind Waker in a way. It's very similar in style how it looks. You could have believed Sega would have made this when it came out. It looks so good. Sumo Digital have got something to do with it, I think. So there might be some influence there from Sega people. But a phenomenal game. It looks incredible. Like I say, it could have been a Sega arcade game. If you'd seen it in the arcade back in the day, you'd have straight away you thought, oh, that's a new Sega game. Looks fantastic. It's just, there's something, as magnificent as it is, I do feel there is something missing. It's just, I don't know, there's just that bit of magic that it's not got for me personally. But that said, it's still amazing, so I had to include it in my 25. Right, next up we've got another PS3 game, and it's another light gun game, and this time we've got House of the Dead Overkill. Obviously more Sega goodness. Again, you could pick out whatever House of the Dead game, they're all fantastic, but I think this might be the only one that got released since 2000, and there's also Wii versions obviously, but this version in particular looks amazing on the PS3, and it also, you can play it in 3D as well if you've got a 3D TV, which also looks fantastic. And over, you know, I mean, House of the Dead is over the top and you know, crazy, isn't it, as it is, but this Overkill version, it's really like to the max. It's like House of the Dead on heat. Phenomenal game, brilliant. If you like light gun games, it's a must play again. Right, next up we've got another Switch game. Though again you can get it on other platforms. I've just got the Switch version, and it's Cuphead. Again, had to include this. It's just, it's one of those. It appeals to me, this kind of thing. It's how it looks. It's amazing. I just love the aesthetic of this. How it's like a vintage 1920s cartoon. It just absolute perfection. It's very difficult. I'm no good at it, but it's so good. There must be a sequel to this, you'd imagine, at some point. Honestly, it's incredible. I'm sure you've played it, but I had to include it. It's just, it's timeless, and I can imagine in 30, 40 years' time, this will still look incredible. Right, I'm getting near the end. It's a good job with 30 minutes in. Now we're back on the Wii U, Now you can also get this on the PS3 and 360, but to me it's always been a Wii U game because that's where I played it. I've since bought the PS3 and the 360 versions, but I've not really tried either of them, to be honest. Like I say, it's always been a Wii U game to me, and it's magnificent. I would say, well, going on the basis that I don't think I've included any others, this is the best kart racer of the last 25 years. And it's Sonic All-Star Racing transformed. Amazing. Honestly. Far better than the later versions of this, like the Sonic kart racing games. Sonic, what was it called? Sonic Racing was the next one, wasn't it? I haven't actually bought the new one. I've played the demo. It's reasonably good, but compared to this, no. This is the daddy. Looks amazing. Love how there's all, you know, worlds and environments from classic Sega games, you know, like Afterburner, Panzer Dragoon, whatever. There's so many sort of nods to games of the past in this, and got great sort of car transformation mechanics. Obviously it's in the name, transform, changing from cars to planes to boats, whatever. Absolutely superb game. Definitely the best kart racer in recent, or the last 25 years, I would say. I can't think of a better one. You know, Mario Kart World on the Switch 2 is great, but I don't think it's as good as this. This is stunning. We need more of this, please, Sega. Fantastic. Right, next up, we've got a Wii game. And it's been on in the background all through the video. Admittedly keeps going off. We've got Excitebots. Unfortunately, region locked to America. God knows why it never came out anywhere else. Fantastic game. If you played Excite Truck, it's kind of the same, but more, again, times 10 if you like. A bit more wacky, out there, crazy. Where you're controlling sort of crazy bug style cars, crazy jumps, crazy mechanics. Really fantastic game. It's such a shame it never got released outside America. But if you've got some way of playing it, I thoroughly recommend Excitebots. It's a fantastic, again, arcade racer. As you'd expect, there's plenty of arcade racers on this list for me. Right, I think we've got 6 to go. Next up, we've got a DS game. Now, I'm not big into handhelds, and I really got into this via the Wii version quite a few years ago now. I think I saw it in a video ages and ages ago on YouTube. I wasn't aware of it. And I bought it and I thought, wow, this is amazing. Then found out there was a DS version. Bought the DS version and thought this was even better. So, like I say, you can get it on the Wii, but for me, this is the better version. Ivy the Kiwi. Now, it's made by the same... Is it Yuji Naka who made Sonic, I think? Now, it's a puzzle platformer. But, it's good on the Wii. Don't get me wrong, it's really, really good on the Wii. But it's better on the DS, I think, because of the touchscreen. Because basically you're drawing platforms for your character to get from the start to the exit. And on the Wii, obviously, you're moving the remote around drawing the platforms. But I just think it plays a bit better with the touchscreen on the DS, hence why I've picked out that version. But both are fantastic. If you like a puzzle platformer, you must try Ivy the Kiwi. Brilliant game. Right, funnily enough, we've got 2 Wii games now. Now, this is another sort of category like driving simulators, 3D fighters, in the sense that I felt I needed to include a 2D fighter because, again, big sort of retro arcade style game fan. I felt I needed to include a 2D fighter, and there's loads of them been released since 2000, and they look fantastic on modern consoles. I've got, all the ones released on the Xbox 360, the PS3, PS4, you know, right up to this day, you can still buy them on the Switch and the PS5. You know, City of the Wolves. There's loads of them. They all look incredible. You know, retro is alive and well with the 2D fighter on modern systems. So many. So it was a case of picking one out. And the one I've gone with is Tatsunoko versus Capcom on the Wii. Why did I pick this? Well, it's a fantastic game. It's locked to the Wii for some reason. It always will be, you'd imagine, with the Tatsunoko license. Or Battle of the Planets, whatever you want to call it. I think I'll always have a fondness for Street Fighter over any other fighting game, purely because I played a bit of it back in the day, and it kind of sticks in your brain, doesn't it? Street Fighter 2 Turbo will always be my favourite 2D fighter. Though, you know, like I say, there's loads since, you know, Under Night, BlazBlue, Guilty Gear, all the Street Fighters, Mortal Kombat, Mark of the Wolf, City of the... You know, loads of them. But just, I'll pick this one out purely because it's a bit different. It's the only game that's ever had this Tatsunoko aspect to it in a fighter. In like a Street Fighter game, you can get Japanese Tatsunoko Battle of Planets games, shooters, and there's a fighter. But nevertheless, I felt I wanted to include this, and it's just a shame it's locked on the Wii. But it's definitely, if you've got a Wii and you like fighters, again, it's a must buy. Right, that leaves us one game before the top three, and like I say, it's still on the Wii. For me, this is the best game on the Wii. It's another light gun game, which I think there's been 3 of in this list. So again, can't go far from my arcade sort of passion and origins. And Sega again in this case, and we've got Ghost Squad, one of the cheapest games you can buy on the Wii. It's usually about £1 or £2 in CEX, and honestly, it's magnificent. Again, me and my wife loved this at the time on the Wii. It's one of the few, again, along with the PS3, the 360. I had a Wii when it came out. Rarely touched any of them, but we did play Ghost Squad, and we absolutely loved it. I don't think we ever completed it. I think we got to the final boss. I don't think we ever beat him. We was like a hair's breadth away from beating him, but I'm fairly sure we never did. But like I say, amazing game. If you like light gun games, this is worth buying a Wii for, in my opinion. It's so good. Brilliant. Ghost Squad. If you haven't played it, play it now. Right, that brings us to the top 3 games, in my opinion, of the games released in the last 25 years. These are the best 3. So, in the number 3 spot, had to include this, and again, I've spoke about this before. It's not generally the kind of game I would play, but for some reason I started playing this one and I fell hook, line and sinker into it, and of course I'm talking about Breath of the Wild. Some people don't like it. I think it's amazing. Obviously, it's my number 3 game released in the last 25 years. I wouldn't argue with it if you wanted to put it in the number 1 position. It's stunning. I much prefer this to Tears of the Kingdom. I couldn't get into that, if I'm honest. This is stunning. I'm not sure I'll ever play it again. Maybe I will one day, I don't know. But I thoroughly enjoyed the many hours I put into this. I don't know, every now and again a Zelda game grabs me, like this and Wind Waker. And I did play Link to the Past back in the day. But I don't know, I can't explain. It's not something I go out wanting to play necessarily. And so that kind of highlights how good I think this is, to put it in front of all the other games which I absolutely love, and to put this, a game which generally is a genre I don't really play, as high as I have. I hope that kind of illustrates how good Breath of the Wild is. Right, my number 2 pick for games released in the last 25 years. You could possibly say this is a bit cheating a bit, because the game obviously came out in the mid to late 90s originally, but this version wasn't released until, I don't know when, midway through the noughties, and this is by far the game I played most on my PS3 back in the day. And without a shadow of a doubt, I spent hours on this compared with anything else on the PS3, and I'm talking about Daytona USA. Obviously it was also released on the 360. Unfortunately there was never a physical, it was a download game only. I've made this box up myself, just, you know, wishful thinking what might have been. But like I say, the game was released in the 90s, but when we got this in the mid-noughties, whenever it was, to be able to play the arcade version of Daytona in your home, mind blown. You know, it was what you always wanted back in the day. But unfortunately, the Saturn version, as good as it is, it was nothing like the arcade in many ways. This is the arcade game. So, and it's, if you was talking about games of all time, Daytona for me would be in my top 5, I would imagine, quite easily. So this had to be in my top 3. Although unfortunately there's no physical, Daytona USA on the PS3 and 360, you can't go wrong. I would also throw in addition to that, really, Virtua Racing on the Switch. That's exactly the same. We didn't get that until, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, whenever it came out. Again, unfortunately, no physical, but it's arcade perfect. You know, the 32X version was amazing when that came out in the 90s, but like, whatever, 20-30 years later, to get the arcade game on your Switch, again, I should have put that in this 25, if I'm honest. Something should have been excused to get Virtua Racing in, but we'll throw it in there, equal with, in the same pot as Daytona, because it's more or less, you know, it's again, Virtua Racing, one of the greatest games ever made for me, absolute Sega perfection, and the Switch version is absolutely incredible. So, my number 1 game of the last 25 years. You all knew what it was going to be if you're a regular viewer of this channel. What else was it going to be? It's the greatest game ever made, period. End of discussion. There's no discussion to be had. If you disagree with me, you're wrong. Outrun 2 is the greatest game ever made. Nothing more to be said. Thanks for watching.